We're back with Krystle Marriott, and Krystle, you're sharing the story of these two worlds that you're almost straddling, right? So there's chaos in your personal world, but you're excelling in school. What was your relationship like with God at that moment?
Well, when I was very young, I didn't really have a relationship with God. I was more angry at God. I kind of blamed him for a lot of the things that were happening in my life. Though I felt like God preserved my youth in many ways because there was no parental figure or no authority figure in my life, I was able to stay young. And so I had I approached life with like really innocence and a sense of innocence. And, I kind of had a very naive way of looking at things that kind of worked to my benefit at times, but I didn't really see that God was in the midst of my circumstances and trials at the time. I didn't have the maturity or wisdom to know that he was there with me. Though I felt forsaken by everyone around me, I felt like I knew, I had a sense that God was there, but I didn't really want to turn to him. I kind of was conflicted because I felt like, well, if he was there, how could he really love me if he allowed everyone in my life to leave me? I blamed God for it, and I didn't see how people and their choices could be their own responsibility and not God's. And it didn't mean that God didn't love me just because the people around me didn't seem to be there.
Right.
So
you went through a stressful time at school, again, trying to juggle everything, and then diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Yes. So when I finally did go off to university, I was struggling to complete my studies because I still didn't have a structure in my life. I was, eating a lot of junk food and drinking Red Bulls every night and then smoking marijuana. I had no stability, no sense of, routine or anything like that. So when I was, when I had my first psychotic break after being so stressed out with school, I kind of learned to see life from a different perspective. It made me at first feel like my life was not going to go anywhere. I took the diagnosis of schizophrenia as if it was some kind of death sentence because it felt like very limiting. I didn't really understand what it meant in its entirety, but I'd seen movies, and what I associated with the term schizophrenia was not good. So I had to learn that this diagnosis didn't have to define who I was. It didn't have to limit me. I could still rise above it and rise above the challenges by focusing on God, which eventually I did decide to give my life over to God. And
so this is incredible. So you meet a young lady at school who invites you to a Bible study and starts sharing with you about Jesus. And was that your first time that you really, like, the light bulb went on?
Yeah, well, when I was about 12, I would go to church with my mother. Occasionally, she would take us to church, and I did go up and pray a prayer of salvation, but it didn't mean anything to me really at the time. I kind of just did it because I think my mother wanted me to do it. But when this young lady began to share with me about Jesus, her name was Raquel. She was really sweet, and she was very strategic. And I was the kind of person, because I was majoring in philosophy, and philosophy was like a breeding ground for like skepticism and pessimism and all these things. And she was able to help me to navigate around the questions that I had in a very logical way. So it opened up my eyes to see that God could be real, and there's a way to logically explain a lot of the things that I didn't think God had the answers to. And not that everything has answers, but I felt like God really brought a woman into my life who had a good understanding of who he was and how to share him with me.
You didn't have to perform anymore.
I didn't have to perform.
That you didn't have to look for people's acceptance, but that he loves you for who you are.
Exactly.
So now, I mean, incredible story, incredible turnaround. You're now at you're studying divinity at Mac Divinity School. You're now also a prayer partner here at Crossroads. Tell me about why you want to study at MacDiv and also be a prayer partner.
Well, my studies at MacDiv is because I'm working toward becoming a hospital chaplain. I have a art business, a paint party business, and I minister to others through art. And so I'm hoping that my studies at McMaster would open up many more opportunities, like in a hospital setting, to help heal the sick through art. And so that's kind of the direction that I'm taking. And I'm also hoping to kind of use it to further develop my own ministry, Change the Art, where I'm gonna, my heart is to help people revive their inner child by awakening their inner artist. artist.
Wow.
And so that's mainly why I've chosen that direction with the Divinity College. And my work at the prayer center is to add to the, desire to want to help revive the inner child. But I hope to do, I use prayer as a means to help people remember that God still has plans, and the things that you think are impossible, if you have faith like a child, God can cause it all to happen.
Now, could you imagine that you would be sitting here today after such a rough journey to get here and being able to pour into people with prayer?
Yeah, I never thought this was going to happen. To be honest, when I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, like I said, I thought I wasn't going to go anywhere. I felt debilitated. Like I felt like there was nothing I could do with myself, and that I would never amount to anything. And so now that God is using my life, even though I'm still living with some of the challenges day to day, living with a diagnosis of schizophrenia, I know that the grace of God is on me to help me to work. He works through me, and I allow him to work through me because I know that how broken I am and how fragile I am. I think I've become the perfect kind of vessel for God to use to work through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Krystle, for your story today.
No problem.
Oh, I hope that encourages you. So many of our prayer partners that are answering your calls have real life stories of how Jesus has met them in their brokenness. They can identify with us because I am so broken as well. So please do call 1-800 or 1-866-273-4444 or email us prayer@crossroads.ca. Amazing prayer partners just like Krystle who have lived life and can attest on the other side that God is real, that he loves you, that he cares about you today, and he sees you where you are and where you can be. Stay with us. We'll be right back.